One of the moments we're all waiting for in Avengers Endgame is seeing Captain Marvel face off against the Mad Titan Thanos, who snapped half of all life in the universe out of existence in Infinity War. But is it possible these two characters have met at some point prior to the beginning of Endgame? We'll take a look at what Captain Marvel has been up to and some possible interactions she's had with some of Thanos' most powerful enemies. Now, before we dive into this Avengers Endgame theory, be warned, it'll contain some spoilers about the Captain Marvel movie. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, first up, what are you waiting for? Get a ticket and go, my friend. If you have seen it, then you can continue with your spoiler-free viewing experience. Enjoy! We had a lot of questions during Infinity War, like where the heck was Clint Barton while all of this was going down? But perhaps even more baffling than that was where was Captain Marvel? We knew her movie was going to be coming out and that it takes place in the 90s prior to Infinity War. So why was this hero Marvel Studios was building up to be so great and powerful missing in action? After all, the decimation didn't just affect life on Earth, but all life in the universe. Of course, we had approximately a billion theories about what she could have been doing instead of fighting Thanos, but her standalone movie answered that question pretty definitively. At the end of the movie, Carol Danvers takes off with the Skrulls in order to help them find a new place to call home. Of course, she also makes some vague statements about stopping the lies of the Kree, but she seemed mostly focused on the whole Skrull thing. And then during the mid-credits scene, we saw that she seemingly rushed to answer Nick Fury's page when he called her at the end of Infinity War. But although we have a vague idea of what she was up to in the gap between Captain Marvel and Endgame, we don't know for sure exactly how she spent all of her time. Is it possible that during this time, she ended up colliding with a noted enemy of the Kree and a victim of Thanos? We met the Nova Corps in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but they're just a part of the Nova Empire. This empire is a noted enemy of the Kree people, and the two warred for over 1,000 years. Yes, that's a pretty serious grudge. Although a peace treaty ended up getting signed, the Kree weren't happy about it. They even refused to help out when one of their own, Rhomann the Accuser, was trying to take down the Nova Corps. Although Rhomann didn't succeed, Thanos did, which we learned in Infinity War. He casually threw out the fact that he wiped out the entirety of the Nova Corps like it was no big deal, but we have to wonder why such a huge scene would have been omitted from the movie. It's possible there was more to the annihilation of the Nova Corps than Thanos disclosed, and maybe his victory wasn't as easy as he made it seem. Captain Marvel said she was going to find the Skrulls a home, and she might have gone to other races to ask for help. The Nova Empire is an enemy of the Kree, and they've been shown to be reasonable and compassionate. It's possible Captain Marvel would have sought out their help by appealing to both their better nature and their hatred for the Kree. Would they be able to pass up a chance to do a good deed and anger the Kree? With this in mind, it seems plausible that Captain Marvel would be an ally of the Nova Corps and may have been involved in Thanos' attack. One possibility is that Captain Marvel and Thanos faced off, and Thanos was the victor. We all know Captain Marvel is incredibly strong, but so is Thanos and his Black Order. Even the Incredible Hulk doesn't want to mess with Thanos, and that's truly saying something. If Captain Marvel left Nick Fury with a pager, there's a chance she did something similar with the Nova Corps. But maybe when they reached out to her for help, she was simply unable to stand up against Thanos on her own. Although we certainly aren't cheering for Captain Marvel to lose, it'd be interesting for character development. And all this time, we've been operating under the assumption that the Avengers are in desperate need of Captain Marvel's help and that she was going to swoop in and save the day. But if this is true, it could be that Captain Marvel needs their help every bit as much as she needs theirs. After all, she's supposed to be protecting the Skrulls, and we're assuming half of them got wiped out by the decimation as well. Thanos went after Xandar because he was searching for the Power Stone, and this particular Infinity Stone was integral in causing the decimation. According to virtual effects supervisor Dan DeLeo, they spent a lot of time debating how to have their heroes perish at the end of Infinity War. Would they simply explode into a million pieces? Ooh, yummy. Would they melt into a vicious goop? Oh, what a world! DeLue said it was the dusting effect that we saw in the movie was supposed to be a direct effect of the Power Stone. Marvel Studios considered how each Infinity Stone in particular would cause people to perish, which must have been an interesting and gruesome discussion. In the interest of brevity and maintaining their PG-13 rating, Marvel Studios decided to dust those who perished in the decimation. Because the Power Stone was directly responsible for the decimation, it'd be interesting to see Captain Marvel and Thanos battling over it. And then there's the connection Captain Marvel has with another one of the Infinity Stones. She obtained her incredible powers in part because of the effect of the Space Stone. Thanos has been lurking around the MCU for quite some time, but he didn't try collecting the Infinity Stones in earnest until Infinity War. That's because running around and grabbing up Infinity Stones is the kind of thing that attracts a lot of attention. Thanos knew he was going to be heavily opposed, so he wanted to make sure he knew where to find as many of the stones as possible before he started collecting them. If Thanos was trying to track down the Space Stone, it seems likely that this could have put him in the path of Captain Marvel. If Captain Marvel and Thanos did face off, it'd make her motivation in Endgame all the more compelling. It'd also give us some closure about Xandar, which seemed like a really huge battle to gloss over. And it'd even get around a potential issue that's worrying a lot of fans. Don't get us wrong, we loved watching Captain Marvel wreck absolutely everyone and punch a spaceship apart. It was awesome, but sometimes it's possible for characters to be too powerful. We like seeing heroes struggle and overcome seemingly insurmountable odds and manage to triumph. If Captain Marvel is able to punch Thanos into submission the second she shows up in Endgame, cue the credits. It wouldn't be a very interesting development, and at this point in the game, we don't think Marvel Studios would do something like that. They've proven they can tell compelling stories, and they seem to know the type of character arcs we find interesting. Not only might Captain Marvel need the help of her fellow heroes, she might also need their information. When she shows up in the mid-credit scene of Captain Marvel, she asks where Nick Fury is. This makes it seem like she doesn't necessarily know what the situation is or even if Thanos is involved. Carol Danvers is smart and strong, but she isn't omnipotent. Even if she fought Thanos before, there's bound to be some huge gaps in her knowledge since she wasn't involved with what went down during Infinity War. Her gear was super high-tech when she showed up to Earth in the 90s, but things have changed since then. For one thing, you can't just throw an alien at our planet and hit a blockbuster any longer. Now she might find Earth has some useful resources, especially when she has the opportunity to interact with Tony Stark and Bruce Banner. Captain Marvel being involved with the Nova Empire could also serve as a way to bring a popular and important comic book character into the MCU. In the comic books, Nova Corps soldier Rhomann briefly survives the extermination of his comrades in arms. Before he perishes, he manages to connect with a high school student named Richard Rider and gives him all the powers of a Nova Centurion. No pressure to be an incredible hero or anything, don't mess it up. Richard takes on the mantle of Nova in honor of Rhomann and teams up with other costume heroes in order to fight crime. Nova is a popular character, and rumors have been circulating for quite some time that he'll eventually join the MCU. Considering that the Nova Corps have been exterminated, it seems like Marvel Studios is finally setting us up for a Nova movie. It's possible Captain Marvel encountered Rhomann if she was called in to defend Xandar against Thanos' attack. She could have brought him with her to Earth when she responded to Fury's call, giving him a chance to encounter Richard Rider and transfer his powers. Earlier, we talked about Marvel Studios' approaches to storytelling and world building, and Nova seems like he'd be a perfect addition. Plus, there's the fact that Thanos destroyed the Nova Corps prior to the decimation. For all we know, the Nova Corps might be gone for good. This means it's now or never when it comes to establishing Richard Rider as Nova in the MCU. For a while, many of us assumed the eventual inclusion of Nova would be tied into the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, which would have made some sense. It's a more space-centric franchise which has featured the Nova Corps before, but considering what a mess the third movie has been, it's likely those plans have changed. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was supposed to be released in 2020, but ended up getting postponed indefinitely when director James Gunn was fired. It was a decision based on some offensive tweets Gunn had made years ago, but now he's back and ready to start the project up again. Hooray! He had already prepared a script for the movie and had the support of the cast and the crew. Many people hoped Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi would take over the project, but Waititi wasn't interested. He basically said he and other directors didn't want to touch a project which was so thoroughly James Gunn. After firing him in 2018, Disney hired him back. But now there's a scheduling conflict. Gunn is directing the second Suicide Squad movie, which will come out in 2021. He won't be able to take on a third Guardians of the Galaxy movie until that project is finished. This situation makes it all the more likely that Nova is going to appear during Endgame in some capacity. We're not saying he's going to be a huge part of the movie, but it wouldn't be surprising if Marvel Studios used this movie as a chance to set up the character. Showing a connection between Captain Marvel and Thanos at this point would make a lot of sense. He's obsessed with collecting all of the Infinity Stones, and she gets her powers from one of them. It also means she had more of a vested interest in the outcome of Endgame and bringing down Thanos. She isn't just doing a favor for an old friend, she has a stake in this fight as well. It'd also fill in the blanks about what really went down on Xandar and further integrate Captain Marvel into the history of the MCU. After all, let's not forget that, although we've only been introduced to her recently, she's been an active hero for a long period of time. Is Endgame really going to be the only time she's encountered the Mad Titan during the course of her superhero career? What do you think about the idea that Captain Marvel and Thanos have met prior to the events of Avengers Endgame? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to click on the subscribe button for more MCU videos from us here at CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.